Welcome back and thank you for joining the second session in our webinar series. If you caught the first one, we started to discuss breaking down silos between physical and digital records and how that can dramatically reduce risk and build the foundation for better governance. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the technology itself, not in a theoretical way, but in a real practical way. We'll explore what it really takes to make technology work for your information strategy and look at tools like AI, automation, and intelligent search and how that really can aid and support businesses and really avoid the common pitfalls that we see in organizations today. So whether you're a records leader trying to modernize your approach or the CIO making strategic platform decisions, this session is designed to be both accessible and actionable. And while this isn't a sales pitch, I will be showing our approach at OASIS Group, particularly through our FileSmart solution, as a real-world example of what smart, simple, and pragmatic can really look like in practice. So starting with a bit of honesty, technology projects don't fail because the tools are bad. They normally fail because of the environment and that the environment isn't really ready for them. So quite often we see fragmented records sitting in different repositories, some digital, some physical, some in shared drives, some on legacy metadata with legacy metadata, and some really with no metadata. And I think tools often get introduced really before processes are rethought. So we try to digitize broken workflows and wonder why it's still inefficient. And often there's a bit of an overinvestment in shiny features and tools, but an underinvestment in usability, training, or the context itself. And the result is quite often the tools aren't really used to the best of their ability, or people don't really trust what they're seeing. Now, that's especially true in the world of record management. And it becomes especially critical when you start to talk about automation and AI and future technologies. Because ultimately it's the data behind the scenes that really matters. And if that isn't clean, compliant, or complete, then nobody's going to trust a chatbot or an algorithm to interpret it. So that's really the disconnect. And technology can help to solve some of that, but it doesn't really start with adding more tech. It starts with rethinking how we organize and govern information, which we discussed on the previous webinar. So what does good really look like? I like to think about this sort of pragmatic vision for intelligent governance. When organizations that are genuinely leading in this space start to leverage technology, they take quite often a more balanced and pragmatic view of governance. They don't see it as a blocker. They see it really as an enabler, a foundation that lets them move faster with more confidence. And it's not about having a trade-off between productivity and compliance. It's about making sure that the two are designed to genuinely support one another. When your records are structured and governed, and obviously that includes physical as well, you can start to build real intelligent capabilities on top of that. The automation, AI, greater insight analysis, predictive intelligence. But it's only possible when the data is trusted and when it's governed separately, or it's governed as a sort of separate task. That's when you start to see challenges and problems. So we need to work out how the technology can be embedded directly in the way that your teams works. And really, the organizations that will win will be the ones who govern better, not just digitize faster. And quite often, when organizations are digitizing faster, they're putting that information into other separate technology repositories. And because it's not joined up and unified, you start to experience challenges. So what does a transformation look like in practice? So what you see here on the left-hand side is the world that most organizations are still in. Fragmented records spread across multiple systems, often siloed by their format or department. And search is quite often really manual. Retention and tagging is, well, inconsistent. And physical and digital records are not treated as equal. And very little is truly auditable or automatable. But once you start to unify that and that environment into a single point of access, the picture does start to change. Search becomes far more intelligent and scalable and immediate. Retention rules can be applied centrally and layered down into all areas of information. And you can start to tag and classify and even automate based on meta information. The key here, and most importantly, is that your content becomes structured and queryable. That's really the foundation that makes everything else possible. All the AI, all the automation, all the reporting, not just sort of possible, but sustainable and scalable. This is really the journey that we see most organizations going on, from this fragmented to unified view. So at OASIS, we've built our approach around that foundation. And we have a solution called FileSmart. And it's a great example of how we've made this work in practice in a real world. FileSmart is entirely built on top of Microsoft 365, which means that teams don't need to learn a brand new platform. It works natively within and inside SharePoint, Outlook, and Teams, and it embeds governance directly into the everyday tools, adding functionality like tagging, redaction, retention, and audit controls without changing the way that people work. It also connects physical and digital records seamlessly. With our back office records, we have an API that allows us to understand all of the records in the physical inventory and all of the associated meta information. And we can surface that all within FileSmart. So this allows you to connect physical and digital records seamlessly so that users within your organization can get unified access to to those records, but also your compliance team gets to see complete oversight of records that the organization has. And from an IT standpoint, this is where there's huge benefit because it integrates within the wider Microsoft governance tools like Power Automate, Azure, or Purview. This means that the CIO will be happy. It's scalable. It is leveraging the existing technology that an organization has in place. It extends the technology stack that you already have today. And clearly that fits into a broader technology strategy, which most organizations are on a journey with Microsoft as well. Now, once all your information, both physical and digital, is accessible within that type of environment, it's where it really starts to get quite exciting. Because once your data is structured and you've got oversight and it's unified within one environment, you can start to use modern technologies. Now, that modern technology could start with a simple mechanism to run search across both physical and digital records. And with AI, this allows us to use AI in ways that actually really matters, such as asking natural questions and getting real answers. Find me all records that were produced between the following dates where the HR department has a signature on the document. That's all very viable. Now, with FileSmart, we're already starting to see these types of use cases, and we're enabling secure, permission-aware search across all formats, both physical and digital, and scanned assets. But where we're heading is much more towards conversational access. The ChatGPT style interfaces that lets you ask real questions. Again, like show me all signed contracts for X client since 2019, or what data do we hold related to this incident? And you can get structured responses back, not just the actual asset, the information in the document, but real structured answers drawn from governed, permissioned records. And because this all sits within a Microsoft environment, it's fast, it's scalable, it's compliant, because the AI layer is querying structured, trusted content. That's the power of doing the foundations and leveraging the Microsoft estate for doing exactly this. Now, conversational interfaces and intelligent search have in a way been around for quite a while, just never in the world of records management in this way. Now, if you think about what that could mean, you've got all of your information, digital documents and assets and meta information and physical and scanned assets, all within a FileSmart environment. FileSmart sits over the top of that Microsoft estate and puts all this information into an accessible format. But then you layer on the visual interface that allows you to chat with it, that allows you to give this to relevant individuals and relevant departments within your organization. This is when you really start to demonstrate the value of records management within an organization. You bring it to life for them. And clearly, if you do this within the FileSmart application, you optionally have the ability to log this information so you know what people are querying, you know what people want access to, and it will lead to much better conversations around how you create value for your organization and how technology creates value for your organization. Now, ChatGPT and AI tools are all the rage. But the reality is that quite often you want this information to feed a broader process on the operational side of the business. And so that's where automation, or RPA, so that's robotic process automation, really starts to become possible. Again, without going out and procuring completely separate tools, which many organizations do, but that's not necessary when it's all in a Microsoft environment. You can start to use tools like Power Automate. Of course, you can still leverage broader RPA platforms, but the same truth applies. Automation only works if the data feeding it is structured and trusted. So you can start to do post-processing of information without that metadata in one environment, without reliable triggers, without clearly governed rules. Automation simply doesn't scale, and worse, it quite often can create risk. So with FileSmart, those foundations are built in. You can create automated workflows based on, for example, record type, or metadata tags, or retention status, owner, department, any number of these things. And you can start to route documents, for example, for review, for approval, or you could build automatic rules such as redacted SAR packs, or flag files for archiving, or even disposal, all without manual intervention. Now, this isn't speculative. It's already happening in client environments, reducing workflow, improving speed, and lowering the risk of human error, which clearly can occur. So there's a number of different use cases, and I think we and clients are all on a journey to develop out a library of use cases. It's worth sort of reinforcing that we haven't set out to build another platform. We've set out to solve real persistent problems that we see every day in information managers that we work with. Take SARS as a clear example. It's not just about finding the right record, it's about redacting them. It's about packaging them up and tracking what is disclosed and when. So FileSmart allows you to do that with a few simple clicks, with all the built-in governance required. On retention, so native Microsoft tools only go so far, especially if you haven't got the full sort of purview stack, for example. We extend those capabilities with FileSmart, giving you automation without needing a sort of licensing overhaul. And email's another really big one. So we bring together tagging and classification of records into Outlook so that governance starts when that record really enters a business. So these aren't edge cases. They're sort of high friction, high effort tasks that eat up a huge amount of time, create a huge amount of exposure, and we're deliberately focusing on making them easier. This is really about solving pain points without adding complexity. So everything I've shared really reflects the broader digital strategy that we're taking here at OASIS Group. So it's grounded in 3 simple principles. First, we focus on creating a safe space. This means a well-governed, secure, compliant environment where organizations can confidently operate and innovate without worrying about risk, be that regulatory risk or the environment that you operate in within an organization. Enable information and documents to be in a place that's a safe space. Now, through a huge amount of effort and work on our part and our clients' part, we believe that Microsoft estate is that safe space. Secondly, because we're building on Microsoft, clients already have invested quite heavily in Microsoft estates and stacks. So instead of adding more sort of proprietary platforms off the side of that estate, which again carry significant risk, we bring it to that Microsoft estate. So instead of adding more platforms, we enhance what you already use. Now that also can lead to a reduced cost, complexity, and resistance inside your own organization. And third, we really focus on outcomes, not on features. And we will continue to build a series of use cases and outcomes with our clients. And every capability we develop is tied to a very clear problem, a clear user journey, a measurable benefit, and this keeps us close to the client value and avoids innovation for innovation's sake, really. So when the foundations are right, when your information is unified, governed, and queryable, it opens up the door to powerful features and future state use cases. Think about being able to ask your records questions, not just search them, but interrogate them in a natural language to get real answers back. We have clients today who want to build their own technologies over the top of this. And so we make available, for example, APIs so that you can do that. Think about risk scoring, where the systems flag data that might be overdue for attention, or what's been accessed unusually, or a series of audit packs that build themselves based on retention triggers, policy changes, or access logs. This isn't sort of far future speculation. These are real capabilities that start with getting your data in order, working in that smart, safe environment, and having a pragmatic approach to building value, because this is what it's all about. It unlocks all of this without needing to rip and replace your entire ecosystem. Unify records, you can automate, you can lead to better insight, and you can get into predictive intelligence and governance, all from building within this environment. And we can take that on with clients. So let's bring this together. Smart means aligned to business outcomes, not abstract innovation and technology jargon for the sake of the jargon. Simple means usable, accessible, and familiar, especially to non-technology users. And pragmatic is really about being grounded. So designed to solve specific problems in a way that fits your organization and your existing technology. Whether it's search, automation, compliance, or AI, all of it depends on having unified governed foundation. And that's why FileSmart delivers, and what our clients have been asking for and what they're now using to go from complexity to clarity without slowing down their business. So I hope you found some of that useful. And in our final of the last in this series, we'll shift focus from systems to people, because even the best design solutions can only succeed when they're adopted, embedded, and owned across the organization. We'll explore how to drive that adoption, not just in training and change management, but by making the compelling business case for the change in the first place. How you link governance to productivity, risk reduction, and real operational outcomes. And whether you're building internal buy-in or rolling out new solutions at scale, we'll show you how to connect the why with visible results from day one. So thanks again for being part of this session and this webinar series. And we hope that you can join us for what promises to be a practical and energizing close to the series. We look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much.